We made it to week 6. It's Thursday. We're going to talk about the San Francisco 49ers versus the Seattle Seahawks. We're going to look at this matchup from a fantasy football perspective, deep dive it, see who you want to start, sit, bench, or whatever. Later tonight, we'll recap the matchup and go over the buys and sells for fantasy football from this game. But before we dig in, you need to click that subscribe button right now, because we're doing deep dives on these players every day. We're covering the matchups. We're helping you set your lineups with these. On top of that, we're helping you win the waiver wire. Click that button. Stop missing out. Ric Flair's watching. Don't disappoint Ric Flair. But this is a very interesting matchup here with the Niners and Seahawks. And 2 out of the last 3 times they hit the over. That means when we're looking at an over-under of 49.5 points, more than likely, we're going to push to that total. I'm not looking at whether they're going to hit the over or the under. I'm looking at whether or not they could be close to that, and what are the odds that they could drastically go under or drastically go above. I can't see this matchup really going drastically above. I could see it drastically go under, but not really that likely because I see a lot of weapons on both teams and they could push the pace here. I look for it to be a high-scoring game with a good amount of upside for fantasy production. I look for a fair amount of players to hit for fantasy here. We got a 49.5 over-under. We got these teams' tendency to score a lot of fantasy points, be productive, have a fair amount of pass attempts in each matchup. 29.3 for the Niners, 31 for Seattle in their last 3 matchups. That being said, the game script should be pretty tight. We should see the pace pushed, and it might hit the under, but score enough fantasy points for us. And it might hit the under and be like at 46 to 48 for the point total, which would be great for us for fantasy football. That's why I'm not looking at it to beat the over or the under. I'm looking at whether or not it can mess up drastically either way. And I'm also looking at the implied point total by Vegas, 49.5, because they do not want to be too far one way or the other, because if not, the money's going to go too far one way. So they're looking to be in the middle. That's why it's an implied point total, because if it goes under or go over, it does not matter. They just want the money spread around the right way. That being said, we have a matchup here that could allow for good fantasy production. We got Geno Smith and Brock Purdy. Both of them are fringe starters in a good matchup here. So when you're looking at the field of quarterbacks here, ranked 9 through 18 on 4for4, they're a push with most of them. I like them both better than Trevor Lawrence. I think they're a push with Daniel Jones, Jared Goff, due to the matchups. I kind of like them better than Baker Mayfield, but Baker Mayfield could still hit for you. Same with CJ Stroud. Coin flips with the quarterbacks. That's usually how the quarterback position runs, especially this year, because there's a lot of games where a lot of quarterbacks don't hit the expectation. There's a lot of games where the quarterbacks throw for under 200 yards. I think both quarterbacks in this matchup will hit past 200 yards pretty easily. I look for that to happen. At least one of them will probably do very, very well for fantasy, and the other one will be so-so, and it really depends on how the matchup flows. But starting-wise, when you're looking at these quarterbacks in other matchups, you're probably looking at them a little bit more. But on top of that, guys are usually ranked in the top 10. You're not starting them over. However, we're looking at the run game here for the Seattle Seahawks. And a lot of people would be worried about this matchup against the Niners. They're at league average when it comes to allowing fantasy points to running backs. On the worst, Kenneth Walker's probably going to get you 10 fantasy points. The worst would be an injury, of course, but a full game, nothing crazy happening. The game script not going too crazy one way or the other. On the worst, if it's neutral most of the game, 10, 11, 12 fantasy points, somewhere around there. He has the potential to get you a 20 spot in this matchup, maybe even a 30 spot. We saw that before. He has potential to do that. He has the athleticism and upside to see a crease and house it on anywhere on the field. Zach Charbonnet, interesting guy in this matchup because teams like to throw it to the running backs against the Niners. They are stout against the run, but they're not stout against running back production because you can work around that. He might get some extra carries. He's like a flex option type running back. He's a guy that I'm not really looking to start really unless I'm decimated. He's like my RB4 and my RB2 and 3 is not really in there due to bye and injury. That being said, I'd look at Zach Charbonnet, but he's a guy that I'm not really looking to start unless I'm have to due to the matchup. But Kenneth Walker, I'm just going to start him every matchup. I'm just going to do it. And that's just how it is. And he's going to lay eggs, and he's going to go off. And that's just how it's going to be. But he's so good. He's so talented. He's got that speed. Or perceived bad matchups, he's got the upside to score big-time fantasy points on any given game. That being said, we're looking at these wide receivers. And you look at the Niners here. They're kind of bend but don't break the wide receivers. But you're also seeing wide receivers get fantasy production unless it's a weird game script. Last week, they took away Marvin Harrison Jr. and Michael Wilson was able to get the production. So maybe the ball spreads around to Jaxon, Smith-Njigba, and Tyler Lockett. But DK Metcalf's also a force. He's going to get those deep air yards, those deep targets. He's going to get a good target share. Volume's going to go his way. And if Seattle can push it downfield, they can spread it around a little bit, which could potentially happen with this matchup, then you could see this game script get pushed. And we're rooting for these wide receivers to do so. If you have somebody like Jordan Mason or a wide receiver on the other end, you're rooting for these wide receivers, unless you're going against them, to hit in this matchup, to do something, because that's going to push the pace of this game. Sometimes you got to root for some of the other players in the matchup because that's going to allow more opportunities for the players on your team to be able to produce fantasy points. When you're looking at the Niners, they're bend but don't break when it comes to wide receivers, and you're looking at Seattle and game scripts where they're going up against lockdown defenses, they're still throwing the ball. They're still able to get it. They got a good core wide receivers. They got the three amigos right here, and it might spread around a little bit more. DK Metcalf is the guy you're starting, and you're probably going to start him every game for the rest of the season as long as he's healthy, no matter what. Jaxon, Smith-Njigba, and Tyler Lockett, this is going to be game script dependent, series dependent, and it's just going to be the luck of the draw with what wide receiver you want. More than likely, the odds are pointing to Jaxon Smith-Njigba due to the target share and the opportunities in the offense. Tyler Lockett can give you boom weeks because he's getting a little bit better ADOT. He's getting deeper targets, but not as many downfield. Jaxon Smith-Njigba might be a little safer, but not too much. This one's going to be up in the air, and that sounds wishy-washy, but that's really how the game's played. That's really how it is, and this is a tough matchup, but with this matchup, the ball's going to spread around a little bit more as it should. DK Metcalf, you're starting for sure, and Jaxon Smith-Njigba and Tyler Lockett, you're playing with in your matchups. Now you're looking at Noah Fant. He has been dismal for fantasy production. The Niners has been around league average or a little bit worse to allowing fantasy points to these tight ends. So there will be opportunity here. However, Trey McBride has been the only tight end to really get it against them. So he's going to need volume. He's going to need the 49ers to take out these wide receivers. We got three good wide receivers here that can get it on any given play. That's going to hurt him. However, as a fantasy football manager, you're just hoping he gets that target in the end zone and brings it in. That's the gamble. Him or A.J. Barner. Yeah, that's the thing. He catches it in the end zone. He's going to give you a tight end 1 week. Okay production. You're going to be okay. He's probably going to catch a couple balls. If it's in the end zone, then you're good. That's what you're looking at here with Fant. And if it happens, it happens. And that's how tight ends roll these days. But we're looking at the run game for the 49ers. You're starting Jordan Mason. He's getting touches. He's getting volume. He's going to be the top. Starts at running back this week. Production-wise, we got to see how the game script goes. But it looks like this is going to be an advantageous situation for Tyrone Tracy. Did well against him. Gibbs and Monty did well against them. Ramondre Stevenson did well against them. They're allowing volume to running backs. They're getting it. They're around league average, if not a little bit worse, giving production to running backs. This is a team that runs the football. They're good at running the football. Jordan Mason's going to be all right. You look at the three amigos for the 49ers. Both teams have three amigos at the wide receiver spot. And the thing about this, it is a head scratch here. Brandon Aiyuk has been hot the last 2 weeks, and we're pulling up the numbers from the last 2 weeks because Deebo was out for some time. Is Jauan Jennings still with that? Brandon Aiyuk sucked before that, but he was getting a lot of workload. But with the guys together, Brandon Aiyuk's getting a 29% target share over the last 2 weeks. He's getting volume. You're chasing volume. You're more than likely starting him. He's been getting volume all year. It just hasn't been connecting. That being said, he's going to run a lot of routes. He's going to be out there for 90% of the routes easy. He's going to be getting deep targets. Brandon Aiyuk's a guy you're putting out there unless you're jacked at wide receiver. Jennings and Deebo is more of a push for me compared to a lot of the other sites' rankings. Most sites have Deebo over Jennings if you want to do that, but I think it's closer. I would roll Deebo over Jennings if I had both on my team. That's what I would do, but honestly, it's closer. It's closer. So if Jennings goes nuclear over Deebo or gets more targets over Deebo. I kind of felt that. I kind of felt that because it's closer. However, Deebo, from a fundamental standpoint, rushing attempts, or farther removed from the injury, might see some more work in this game. This is a game script that could get pushed. Jennings could also get it as well. I would rank them Aiyuk, Deebo, Jennings, with Jennings and Deebo being close. And if you want to coin flip those two, I'm cool with it. Also, Seattle will allow fantasy points to wide receivers. Slayton got it last week. Amon-Ra, of course. And then, of course, J-Mo in that matchup. Vele in week 1 got some targets. He got a lot of work there. Everybody went after Vele after that game. But still, any of these wide receivers can get it. Brandon Aiyuk's going to get the work. Deebo, you're watching, but we're going to get closer to him coming back to being Deebo sooner than later. And then you're looking at George Kittle. He's healthy. He's good to go. You're starting him. You cannot bench him. No one is. He's an easy start. You're starting him every matchup. This matchup's okay. It's advantageous. They're at league average when it comes to allowing fantasy points to tight ends. Hunter Henry went off against them. They've allowed 9 spots to the other tight ends. He'll probably get looks around the goal line. He'll be able to get looks over the middle and get you yards after the catch. You're looking at George Kittle, you're starting him, and you're letting the chips fall where it may, and that's what really it is with fantasy football. You're just looking at the odds, you're looking at the targets. More likely, if you're getting more targets, more routes, and the odds are more in your favor. However, the chips fall where they may once the game is played. But that's what we're seeing from this Week 6 Thursday night matchup. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. We got more content coming your way. More deep dives on Friday, and then more must starts on Saturday, along with sneaky starts on Friday. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next one.